The film begins with a terrified girl running through her house, desperately trying to escape from something unseen. She hides in fear, as if whatever is chasing her is not human. The scene then shifts to Benny, who looks deeply disturbed, as though he is still recovering from a major shock. The next morning, his condition becomes clearer when he tells his friend that he is tired of everything and needs a break from the world. To clear his mind, Benny plans to travel to Crow Valley by bicycle, hoping that some time alone will help him recover. His friend likes the idea, and soon after, Benny packs a few things into his car and leaves. After driving for a while, Benny stops outside a general store and takes his bicycle out of the car. He goes inside to buy a few supplies, and inside the store, we see the same frightened girl from the beginning of the film. This time, she is silently watching Benny with a mysterious expression. When Benny comes out and prepares his bicycle, the girl also comes outside and stares at him again. Without noticing anything strange, Benny begins his journey toward Crow Valley. Benny rides his bicycle at high speed through the valley. On the way, he stops near a waterfall to drink some water and rest for a while. After taking a short break, he continues his journey. But after covering a long distance, he is forced to stop when one of his bicycle tires suddenly bursts. While he is checking the damage, a car comes speeding from behind and violently hits him. Shockingly, it is the same car that was parked outside the general store. The girl driving it is also the same girl who had been watching him earlier. Seeing Benny lying unconscious, the girl panics. She quickly checks his heartbeat with her ear, and when she realizes he is still alive, she puts him inside her car and drives away. After traveling a long distance, she finds an isolated cabin far away from any populated area. She knocks on the door, but no one answers. She looks through the window and checks around the cabin. Once she confirms that no one is inside, she breaks the window and enters the house. Everything inside the cabin is covered in dust, making it clear that no one has lived there for a long time. It also seems unlikely that the owners will return anytime soon. Sometime later, Benny regains consciousness inside the cabin. His arm and head are badly injured, and the pain in his head is so severe that he can barely stand. He does not remember what happened to him or how he ended up in that place. As he slowly comes back to his senses, the same girl who caused the accident comes near him. After speaking to him for a while, she realizes that Benny has no memory of the accident. So, instead of telling him the truth, she decides to hide it. When Benny asks how he came there, she lies and says that she found him unconscious on the road. Then she claims that she brought him to her uncle's loft to help him. Benny tells her that she should have called an ambulance instead. He shows her his badly injured arm and asks how she could bring him there in that condition. But the girl refuses and tells him that they are now inside Crow Valley, where there is no phone service or help available anywhere nearby. Since Benny is in unbearable pain, he asks her to help him. The girl is not a doctor, but after listening to Benny's instructions, she pulls his arm, tries to set the fracture, and then begins dressing his wounds. After that, she goes into the kitchen. But she is clearly nervous, and strange voices begin echoing inside her mind. Suddenly, the scene shifts into a flashback. We see the girl arguing with her mother, and after getting exhausted by her mother's words, she walks toward the window. There, she sees a terrifying entity standing on the other side of the glass. The sight leaves her completely frightened. The scene then returns to the present, where the girl tries to calm herself and starts preparing food. Meanwhile, Benny comes into the kitchen and asks the girl's name for the first time. The girl tells him that her name is Greta. Benny feels embarrassed because Greta is doing so much for him, but Greta calmly tells him that it is not a problem and that she is doing it by her own choice. At the same time, she serves him food. After eating, Benny tells Greta that he needs to go to a hospital. But Greta replies that the hospital is very far away and she does not even have her own car. She also lies and says that she had to take help from someone else just to bring him there. As they continue talking, Greta suddenly begins remembering her past again. In the flashback, we see that Greta constantly lives in fear because she suffers from depression. She does not take her medicines properly, and she always feels as if someone is following her. Greta believes that a ghost is behind her, and the voice of this entity keeps echoing inside her mind all the time. Even that night, while she was using the phone, she remembers her mother coming to her and scolding her after finding the medicines Greta had thrown away. but Greta lies to her mother and says that she has been taking her medicines every day. The scene then returns to the present, where Greta is once again overwhelmed by the same disturbing voices that have been haunting her for a long time. This time, the voices become clearer, and they begin forcing her to kill Benny. Influenced by those voices, Greta picks up a knife from the kitchen and slowly walks toward Benny's room. She is about to attack him, but suddenly, she comes back to her senses. Realizing what she was about to do, she quickly leaves Benny and rushes into her own room. But the voices do not stop. Instead, they become even louder because Greta refused to obey them. Greta becomes completely exhausted by the voices. She hides her face in a pillow and screams loudly, trying her best to block them out. But no matter how hard she tries, the voices continue to torture her. The next morning, Benny goes outside to find help on his own. He hopes that he might find a nearby clinic where he can get treated, or at least get a ride from someone. He walks for a long time and becomes extremely tired, but he finds neither a clinic nor a vehicle. Just when he stops near a tree to catch his breath, he notices a car deep inside the forest. When he goes closer, he realizes that it really is a car. He immediately rushes back and tells Greta about it. Greta also comes and sees the car. Although we already know that the car belongs to her, she acts as if she is seeing it for the first time. But Benny starts noticing her strange behavior, and he begins to suspect that Greta is lying to him. He feels that the car actually belongs to her. Greta also realizes that Benny has started doubting her, so she immediately returns to the house. To confirm his suspicion, Benny secretly searches the house for the car keys. Finally, he finds them inside a drawer in Greta's room. At that time, Greta is in the forest, trying to control the voices inside her mind. But when she sees Benny heading toward the car again, she becomes confused and alarmed. She quickly returns to the cabin and sees that her room has been completely searched. The place where she had hidden the car keys is now empty. Realizing that Benny has taken the keys, Greta's anger begins to rise. At the same time, the voices in her mind start pushing her to do something terrible. Greta takes a baseball bat from the cupboard and begins following Benny. Soon, Greta reaches behind Benny before he can start the car and escape. She warns him to move away from the vehicle, but Benny does not take her threat seriously. He tries to say something to her, but before he can finish, Greta swings the baseball bat and hits him hard on the head. The blow instantly knocks Benny unconscious. After that, Greta drags Benny back into the house. She spreads a sheet on the kitchen floor, makes him sit on a chair, and tightly ties him with tape. When Benny finally regains consciousness, he is shocked to realize that such a young girl was capable of doing something like this to him. David asks Greta why she is doing all this to him. He begs her to leave him and says that whatever she wants in return, he is ready to give it. He even offers her as much money as she wants. But Greta is completely overwhelmed by the voices echoing inside her mind. She does not listen to anything David says. Holding a hammer in her hand, she threatens him and asks him to reveal his real name. She warns him that if he lies, she will break his hand. Terrified, he finally tells her the truth. His real name is David. The moment Greta hears the name David, the voices inside her mind become even louder. Those voices push her deeper into madness. Influenced by them, Greta suddenly strikes David's hand with the hammer and badly injures him. David screams in pain, and hearing his scream, the voices inside Greta's mind suddenly stop. Greta also comes back to her senses. When she realizes what she has done, she understands that she has crossed a terrible line. After this, Greta goes near David and shows him a picture. In that picture, Greta is standing with her sister. Seeing the photo, David finally remembers the truth. Greta is the sister of the same girl whom David had killed in an accident 8 years ago. David becomes terrified as the past comes back in front of him. He immediately starts making excuses and says that the accident was not his fault. He claims that Greta's sister suddenly came in front of his car, and when he got down to help her, she had already died. But Greta says that everything he is saying is a lie. According to her, when David saw her sister, she was still alive. She was calling out for help, but David abandoned her out of fear and left her there to die alone. David tries to convince Greta and says that he had checked her condition. He says she was already dying, but Greta reminds him that he was drunk that day, and because of that, he does not remember anything clearly. Suddenly, the same voices begin echoing inside Greta's mind again. This time, they start provoking her to kill David. The voices keep blaming David for every painful thing that has happened in Greta's life. Greta loses control again and prepares to smash David's head with the hammer. But before she can kill him, she hears the sound of a truck approaching the cabin. The man driving the truck is actually the owner of the house. When Greta goes outside to meet him, the man asks who she is. Greta acts innocent and says that she was only passing through the area when she had an accident, so she had no choice but to take shelter there. To stop him from entering the house, Greta asks if he can give her a lift for a short distance. But the man does not believe her. When he notices the blood on her clothes, he realizes that something suspicious is happening inside the cabin. He pushes Greta aside and quickly enters the house. Before he can reach the kitchen and see David tied to the chair, Greta picks up the baseball bat lying nearby and strikes the old man hard. The blow knocks him unconscious. This time, the injury is much worse. Blood starts flowing heavily because Greta has hit him with extreme force. Seeing so much blood, Greta comes back to her senses again and realizes that she has done another horrible thing. She tries to stop the bleeding from his head, but it is already too late. Greta has severely injured his brain, and because of the heavy bleeding, the old man dies. Greta is emotionally shattered after this. She leaves the man there, goes into another room, looks at her sister's picture, and breaks down crying. Meanwhile, David is still tied up in the kitchen, but because Greta is not around, he finally gets a chance to escape. He notices a knife lying on the kitchen floor. He throws himself down, struggles to reach it, and slowly tries to free his hands. After a long and painful effort, he manages to free one hand. Then he quickly removes the tape from his mouth, frees his other hand and legs, and grabs the car keys from the counter. David rushes outside and tries to escape in the car. He wants to start it immediately and leave the place before Greta returns. But his bad luck continues because the car engine does not start. At the same time, Greta hears strange sounds from inside the cabin. When she checks the kitchen, she sees that David is no longer there. Realizing that David must be trying to escape, Greta immediately runs toward the car to catch him. When David hears Greta running through the forest, he quickly gets out of the car and hides. Greta desperately searches for him, ready to kill him if she finds him. But David hides under the trunk of a tree, and Greta passes right by him without noticing. While hiding there in fear, David begins remembering the terrible mistake he made years ago. One day, when he was driving through Crow Valley in a drunken state, he accidentally hit Greta's sister, who was riding her bicycle. David had come out of the car to help her, but when he saw her lying unconscious on the road, he panicked. Her pulse was still there. She was alive, but David did not have the courage to help her. Instead of calling for help, he got back into his car and drove away, just to save himself from the police. Even after all these years, David still feels ashamed of what he did. He regrets leaving her there, but at this moment, he does not want to die because of that past mistake. When David realizes that Greta has moved away from the area, he slowly comes out from under the tree. He remembers that the owner of the house came there in a truck, so he plans to escape using that truck. David returns to the cabin and starts searching for the truck keys. But suddenly, Greta appears in front of him. The keys are hanging from the knife in her hand. David decides to take a risk and grab the keys somehow. But as soon as he stands up, Greta throws the keys aside and attacks him with the knife. Both Greta and David fall to the ground, and a violent struggle begins between them. Greta tries with all her strength to kill David, while David desperately fights to save himself. During the fight, David manages to gain control over Greta and tries to take the knife from her hand. But Greta keeps pushing the knife toward his stomach. In the struggle, the knife suddenly gets driven into Greta's own stomach. Greta collapses, and David quickly grabs the truck keys from the floor. He runs toward the truck and prepares to escape from Crow Valley. But just as he is about to leave, he realizes that Greta may still be alive. David does not want to repeat the same mistake he made years ago. This time, he does not want to leave an injured person behind to die. So, instead of escaping, he returns to the cabin to help Greta. When David checks her pulse, he realizes that Greta is still alive. He lays her on a cloth, drags her carefully toward the vehicle, and decides to take her to the hospital as quickly as possible. After traveling halfway, Greta regains consciousness. In her confusion and pain, she pulls the knife out of her stomach, causing blood to gush out. David immediately stops the vehicle and tries to stop the bleeding. But this time, it is already too late. Because of the heavy blood loss, Greta dies there. In the end, it is revealed that Greta failed to take revenge for her sister. The voices that were echoing inside her mind and the terrifying entities she had been seeing were actually connected to her dead sister. Her sister's ghost had been forcing Greta to kill David all along. And after Greta dies, the same ghost appears before David, leaving him completely shattered. With David facing the horror of his past and the ghost of the girl he abandoned, the movie ends here.